Snow whips through the forest in violent gusts, slicing through the towering pines like icy knives. Old boots crunch over the frozen ground as a man hunches forward, fighting against the storm. Thomas, a wiry old man with weather-beaten skin and eyes sharp as a hawk's, clutches a small axe in one hand and a battered sack in the other. He's out searching for firewood before the blizzard traps him inside for days. But then, a sound stops him cold. A faint, ragged whimper rises above the howl of the wind. Thomas spins around, eyes scanning the snow-blurred trees. Another cry pierces the air, weak and desperate. He trudges forward, heart pounding, following the sound deeper into the woods. There, half buried in a snowdrift, he spots it. A tiny, shivering wolf pup, fur clumped with ice, ribs sharp beneath the skin. The pup's eyes are barely open, each breath a visible struggle. Thomas drops to his knees, snow soaking through his pants instantly. He curses under his breath, fingers trembling as he reaches for the creature. "Hold on, little one," he mutters, lifting the fragile body into his arms. The pup's head lolls, a pitiful wheeze escaping its throat. Thomas wraps it inside his sack, pressing it close to his chest for warmth. He rises, eyes squinting against the swirling snow, and begins the long, treacherous trek back to his cabin. Every step feels like a battle. Wind claws at his face, snow drags at his legs like heavy chains. The pup whimpers weakly, and Thomas tightens his grip, teeth clenched. Memories of losing his family flash across his mind. He refuses to lose another life, not tonight. Finally, the outline of a crooked chimney appears through the storm. Thomas bursts through the cabin door, slamming it shut behind him. The small, dim room is cluttered but warm, a single wood stove flickering in the corner. He peels off his soaked coat and lays the pup by the fire, rubbing its fur vigorously. "Come on, fight," he urges, voice hoarse. He heats milk in a battered pot, tipping small drops into the pup's mouth. At first, nothing. Then, a weak swallow. Thomas lets out a shaky breath, relief flooding his veins. He repeats the process, feeding, drying, and warming, hour after hour, refusing to let the darkness claim this tiny life. As dawn breaks, the storm finally begins to quiet. Thomas slumps into a creaky chair, exhaustion threatening to pull him under. But beside the fire, the pup's eyes flutter open, glancing weakly toward him. A slow, hopeful spark ignites in Thomas's chest. He chuckles softly, shaking his head. "Guess it's you and me now, huh?" The pup shifts, ears twitching at his voice. It isn't strong yet, but it's alive. And that's enough. Outside, the storm's final winds rattle the cabin walls. Inside, a fragile bond is born from ice and desperation. In the warmth of that tiny room, two lonely souls take their first breath together. Days blend into weeks as the winter rages on outside. Inside the cabin, life flickers back into the pup's small body. Thomas calls him Ghost, after the pale fur that once looked like snow against the forest floor. Ghost starts on shaky legs, stumbling clumsily across the wooden floor. Thomas laughs for the first time in years, his voice echoing through the small cabin like a long-lost song. At first, Ghost cowers at every sudden sound, flinches at the crackle of the fire. But Thomas is patient, speaking in a low, steady voice, moving slowly, always offering warmth and food before touching. Slowly, Ghost begins to trust the old man, his wild eyes softening each time Thomas offers his calloused hand. When spring finally breaks through the frost, Thomas takes Ghost outside. The wolf pup trembles on the doorstep, sniffing the air, uncertain of the new world. Thomas crouches beside him, one hand on his back. "Go on, Ghost. The forest is yours too." Ghost steps forward, his paws sinking into soft moss. A sudden burst of energy rushes through him. He sprints around the clearing, tail flicking, tongue lolling in joy. Thomas watches with tears in his eyes, heart pounding with a pride that feels almost fatherly. As the seasons turn, Ghost grows strong and lean, muscles rippling beneath his silver coat. He learns to follow Thomas through the woods, ears twitching at every bird call. He guards the cabin at night, his sharp gaze scanning the tree line for intruders. In the evenings they sit by the fire, Thomas humming old folk songs, Ghost curled at his feet. Thomas talks to Ghost as if he were another man, sharing memories of lost family, old regrets, and stories from years gone by. Ghost listens, his golden eyes never leaving Thomas's face. Word spreads to the nearby village about the man and his wolf. Some call Thomas a fool, others say it's a miracle. Children whisper about the ghost wolf who protects the forest. But Thomas doesn't care. He has all he needs in the quiet company of his unlikely companion. On long hunts, Thomas and Ghost move as one. Ghost stalks ahead, nose low, guiding Thomas to game trails. When they make a kill, Ghost waits patiently until Thomas takes his share. Every gesture between them is unspoken but deeply understood. One late summer night, a storm cracks open the sky. Thunder shakes the cabin, lightning turns the forest into a strobe of white. Ghost presses against Thomas's legs, teeth bared at each boom. Thomas rests a hand on Ghost's head, whispering, "I'm here, boy. I'm not going anywhere." Ghost nuzzles closer, finally curling up at Thomas's feet as the storm rages on. In those quiet moments, Thomas sees not a wild animal, but a loyal friend, a soul that saved him from a life of silence and shadows. In turn, Thomas gave Ghost the gift of family, something no wolf pack ever could. Autumn paints the forest in fiery shades of red and gold. The air grows crisp, and each sunrise seems to arrive with a warning of the cold to come. Thomas feels it deep in his bones, an ache that lingers even after the sun has warmed the earth. Ghost notices first. He hovers closer than ever, his sharp eyes following Thomas's every slow step. When Thomas stumbles gathering firewood, Ghost dashes to his side, pressing his nose against the old man's trembling hand. Thomas manages a weak chuckle, patting Ghost's head. "I'm not as strong as I once was, boy." Their walks shorten. The hunts become rare. Thomas spends more time on the porch, staring out at the towering pines. Ghost lies at his feet, head resting on Thomas's boots, ears flicking at every sound. The old man talks less, his voice softer, sometimes drifting off mid-sentence as if carried away by old memories. One morning, Thomas wakes to a tightness in his chest. Each breath feels like dragging a stone uphill. He tries to stand, but collapses onto the wooden floor. Ghost leaps forward, nudging his face, whimpering urgently. Thomas reaches up, his hand shaking as he strokes Ghost's fur. "It's all right. You're a good boy. The best." Somehow Thomas crawls to the porch, dragging himself onto his favorite chair. The sunrise is soft today, spilling gentle pink light across the clearing. Ghost presses his head into Thomas's lap, eyes wide and wet, refusing to leave. Thomas's breaths come in ragged waves now, his fingers tangled in Ghost's fur. He stares out at the forest, the place that once felt like a prison, but became a sanctuary because of a small, half-frozen pup. Memories flicker. The first time Ghost played in the moss, the nights they spent by the fire, the silent hunts in the moonlight. Each image brings a tired smile to Thomas's face. "Thank you for staying," Thomas whispers, voice thin as morning mist. Ghost lets out a low, mournful whine that rises into a shaky howl, echoing into the trees. Thomas closes his eyes, one last breath escaping like a quiet sigh, carried on the wind. His hand slips from Ghost's head, falling limp against the chair. For a moment, the world goes still. The birds stop singing, the breeze pauses as if holding its breath. Ghost lifts his head, staring at Thomas, his eyes pleading for him to move, to speak, to come back. But there is only silence. Ghost throws back his head and howls, a deep, aching cry that slices through the forest, rattling the branches and chilling the hearts of every creature within earshot. The village below hears it too, and those who know the old man shiver, understanding the message carried in that haunting sound. As the sun climbs higher, Ghost stays frozen at Thomas's side. Hours pass, but Ghost does not move, not even when the shadows stretch long across the clearing. His loyalty holds him there, guarding his friend even in death. Morning frost clings to the porch steps as the villagers arrive, drawn by Ghost's mournful howls echoing down the mountain. A few brave souls approach slowly, their eyes darting between the silent wolf and the lifeless old man slumped in his chair. Ghost snarls low when they get too close, his fur bristling, teeth bared. No one dares move forward. They stand in a hushed semicircle, hats in trembling hands, faces pale with grief and fear. Finally, an elder steps forward, voice trembling. "We mean no harm, Ghost. Let us take care of him." For a moment, Ghost doesn't move. His golden eyes fix on each human, judging, deciding. Then, as if hearing an unspoken promise, he lowers his head, his entire body sagging with exhaustion and sorrow. The villagers move quickly, wrapping Thomas's frail body in a wool blanket. They carry him down the steps with quiet reverence, leaving behind the echo of a life that had touched them all, even from a distance. Ghost watches every step, his gaze locked on Thomas until he vanishes into the trees. As soon as the villagers disappear beyond the clearing, Ghost turns. Without a sound, he pads into the forest, slipping through shadows like smoke. By the time the villagers look back from the trail, Ghost is gone, leaving only paw prints pressed into the soft dirt. Back at the village, they bury Thomas near the old church, laying his walking stick across the simple wooden marker. Some weep openly, others stand in silence, hats pressed to their chests. They talk in hushed voices about Ghost, some calling him dangerous, others calling him loyal beyond any human measure. Meanwhile, the cabin falls quiet. Dust gathers on the hearth. The axe leans forgotten against the wall. The chair on the porch sits empty under the rising moon, creaking softly in the wind. Nights become eerily still without the warm glow of Thomas's fire or the soft click of Ghost's claws on the floor. But some villagers swear that on stormy nights they hear Ghost's howl circling the edge of town, a restless spirit searching for something it can't find. Children press their faces to frosty windows, wide-eyed and listening, while parents hold them close, whispering stories about the wolf who once loved a man more than his own wild freedom. As seasons change, the cabin is slowly swallowed by vines and moss. Trees stretch closer, reclaiming the clearing where Ghost once played and Thomas once laughed. Nature moves forward, but the story of the old man and his wolf burns quietly in the hearts of those who remember. People visiting the grave sometimes find strange gifts left nearby: rabbit pelts, bird feathers, or shards of bone arranged with delicate care. Each offering feels like a message from the forest, a ghostly signature left behind. Though no one sees Ghost again, his presence lingers, an invisible guardian prowling the edge of memory. And in that endless silence between the trees, his devotion lives on, echoing in every cold wind and midnight howl. Winter blankets the village in heavy silence. Snow piles against door frames, and chimney smoke curls into the gray sky. On the edge of town, Thomas's grave sits quietly, a simple wooden marker rising from the frozen ground. Most villagers avoid it in the cold, but today, something strange draws them out. At dawn, a hunter trudging through deep drifts stops dead in his tracks. His eyes go wide, breath catching in his throat. There, standing at the edge of the graveyard, is Ghost. His fur now thick and wild, his eyes sharp but heavy with something deeper, an ancient, echoing sorrow. In his jaws, Ghost carries Thomas's old walking stick, weathered and splintered, but unmistakable. The villagers gather slowly, whispers rising around them like fog. No one dares move closer. Ghost steps forward with quiet purpose, snow crunching beneath each deliberate step. When he reaches the grave, Ghost lowers the stick gently onto the snow-covered mound. He noses it carefully, arranging it as if placing an offering on an altar. Then he sits beside the grave, head bowed, chest rising and falling in slow, heavy breaths. A few villagers wipe tears from their eyes, others watch, mouths open in silent disbelief. They remember the stories, the warnings, the whispered fears. Yet before them now sits not a savage beast, but a grieving son honoring his father's memory. Ghost remains there all day. Snow swirls around him, clinging to his fur, but he doesn't move. His golden eyes stay locked on the marker, as if waiting for Thomas to call him home one last time. At sunset, when the sky bleeds orange and purple across the drifts, Ghost tips back his head and releases a howl so full of pain it seems to split the cold air itself. It rolls down the valley, echoing through every cabin, every hollow tree, and every beating heart below. Then, slowly, Ghost rises. He circles the grave once, pressing his nose to the stick one final time. With a heavy sigh, he turns toward the forest. His paws sink into the snow, but he doesn't look back. He vanishes into the twilight, slipping between trees like a living ghost, the spirit of a bond stronger than instinct, deeper than blood. For days afterward, villagers visit the grave to see the stick, now half buried in snow. Many leave small offerings of their own, flowers, feathers, bits of food. Children stand in awe, finally understanding the true power of loyalty and love. Some say they hear Ghost's howl on cold nights, distant and haunting. Others claim to see his silver shape weaving through moonlit pines. But no one ever sees him up close again. In the years that follow, Thomas's story spreads beyond the village, carried in letters and fireside tales. The man who tamed a wolf's heart, and the wolf who loved him until the very end. At the forest's edge, beneath the stars, Ghost's spirit runs free, a guardian of the bond that defied nature itself, and a living testament that love never truly dies. Ghost's story reminds us that love can transcend every barrier, even the wildest instincts, even death itself. In a world so often divided and fearful, this wolf's unwavering loyalty teaches us that true family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the souls who refuse to leave us behind. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who believes animals can't feel as deeply as we do. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe animals mourn and love like us? Have you ever experienced a bond so strong it felt unbreakable? Thank you for watching, and remember, love leaves echoes that last forever.